Hello, everyone. Welcome to our segment for the EVEathon charity marathon to support girls who code. First of all, I want to give a huge shout out to our EVE partner, Rain, who organized this entire 72-hour stream marathon. A bunch of the creators from the community are jumping in across the whole weekend to support the Girls Who Code, who supports helping get girls into science, technology, and maths. So we thought that instead of just playing EVE, which is always fun, we would have some of the girls or women who code here with us to have a little chat as to what we do throughout the day, working here at CCP, but also how we got into it and what we learned, what our educational background is, and a lot of the things that we do otherwise. So I'm CCP K1P1, and I'm here with CCP Esja and CCP Keys. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. Just to get started, maybe we could start with just you guys can tell me a little bit about yourself and what you learned. And CCP Keys, do you want to start? What your educational background is and how you kind of ended up here?
Yeah. So I've been here at CCP now for about 4 years. I am a distributed systems engineer.
Okay.
Which is a long title, but basically a back-end developer.
Okay.
And I studied actually software engineering in my bachelor's here in Iceland, and then did a master's in the Netherlands as well in software engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And I then moved to England, actually, to the UK for a few years, worked there, and then came back home here to Iceland, where I'm from, at CCP.
Did you always plan on, like when you were in elementary school or when you were in like, it's not quite high school in Iceland, but have you always planned?
Upper secondary school is the equivalent,
exactly.
kind of, right?
That's it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
But have you always been interested in software engineering? Is that what kind of was always the plan?
No, not at all. So in upper secondary school is where we like kind of, it's how we prepare to then what we're going to choose for university, right? Mm-hmm. And there I was I was studying social studies and languages, not sciences.
Okay.
Or science. But then kind of pivoted into software engineering at the university because it was just something really drew me to it, but I definitely didn't have kind of the background for it and didn't really know much about it when I started studying it at the university. So that was kind of a leap of faith that worked out really well for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. CCP Esja, how did you kind of end up here?
Yeah, so I did a bachelor's degree back in Germany, so originally from Germany. Mm-hmm. But that was business information systems, which is kind of like 50% business, 50% computer science. Mm-hmm. Then I did my master's here in Iceland, and that was just computer science. And then I started in the field of data science. So I'm a senior data scientist at CCP. Yeah. So back in the days when I did my degree, there weren't really any data science degrees. So that's why I did just classical computer science, let's say. And then just kind of ended up at CCP and been here for 4.5 years now, so similar to you. Yeah.
Okay. And did you always plan that as kind of like that was something that you were interested in?
Not really. I remember, so maybe that's a bit of like a history thing from me and my mom, but back in the day I remember I was really like, I didn't know what to do back in high school or upper secondary school. And I know my mom and I, we sat down and was like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want from your job? And we just went from there and narrowed it down. And then I was like, you know what? This business information systems thing sounds really cool. And then I just went for it and it evolved to data science for me. Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of, I didn't know. And then I sat down and figured it out.
When your dev name, that's so that have you always been interested in Iceland? Esja is one of the mountain that everyone knows where north is in Reykjavik, evidently.
Yeah. So it was like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, we did a trip, like a family trip to Iceland, and I really liked it. So then eventually I decided to do my master's degree here. Okay. And obviously that was in Reykjavik. And I don't know, I thought the name is cute, and we named our dog after the mountain. Aww. So the family dog is called Esja, and then I was like, has to be the dev name.
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And is keys computer keyboards?
Yeah, it's a reference to both because obviously, I use the keyboard quite a lot day to day in my job, but also I'm a keyboard player. I play the piano and keyboard in a band, so it's a reference to both of that.
This was your youth, like a rebel youth of you playing in a band?
Yes, and let's not go into it any further.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm CCP K1 P1. Mine actually comes from I really like to knit, and so K1 P1 is all of the
Knit
the
one,
ribbing.
pearl one?
Yes, the
Oh,
ribbing.
yeah.
I was thinking. I can only think of the Icelandic word. The ribbing around sweaters is knit one, pearl one. So yeah. But I'm currently producing you on one of my teams. But I am a producer here, and I did not study tech at all. I did languages and social studies like you, and ended up producing is a lot more organization and kind of the human skills of communication, and which you both hopefully do use throughout the day.
Habits, yeah. We do have to talk to people. So,
Yes, exactly. No, but I do often hire people in more technical positions like the two of you. And work day to day with people who are very much more technical than I am. But I love a good puzzle either way. But so CCP Keys, when you first started software engineering and that was kind of your leap of faith, were there any challenges that you kind of ran into or anything that you felt was like not as straightforward as you were hoping?
Yeah, I think so. It was kind of difficult for me to choose what I wanted to study in university because I had had this thing in my mind for a long time. I wanted to study kind of Latin history, Latin languages, and it was just something I was interested in. But then I wanted to pivot into software engineering. But obviously I didn't have like all of the recommended subjects, the credits in those. So I talked to a guidance counselor at the university. Like, okay, is this feasible? How can I do this? And the guidance counselor was basically like, well, it's not. Like, there's no like really like hard requirement for you to have these credits, but it would just be too difficult for you and you shouldn't do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So initial hurdle.
It's like not very like encouraging.
Yeah.
And I'm not really one of those that go like, okay, then I have to like do this, you know. Some people react like that. I was more like, okay, it's just not a good idea, but couldn't really stop thinking about it because it just really, there was something that just really drew me to it. So I got another opinion from another counselor within the engineering department. And thankfully she had much more of like a pragmatic approach to it. And she was like, okay, yeah, these subjects, they will be difficult, which they were. But, you know, maybe you could like wait with physics, for example, and take a physics course from like upper secondary or get a tutor or something and, you know, go about it that way. So that was much more encouraging rather than just like, just do something else. And that was actually the second time that has happened to me because I also remember when I did a small pivot as well in upper secondary school where I had chosen only the math course that were necessary for like the languages and the social studies. But at some point I realized like I actually kind of like math and it comes quite naturally to me, so maybe I should do like electives in at least maths even though I'm not doing the science subjects. And I needed to like then quit this course and join another one, and the guidance counselor there was like, no, why you don't have to do that, just do the ones you already sign up for, like there's one or two extra ones you can do and just don't do it. And I was like, why, what kind of guidance are these people giving? Like why aren't they
Was it the same person? Maybe?
No, not the same person.
The same school.
So then like I did go into software engineering in university, and it was difficult. I mean, the first...
but that's not to say that it wouldn't have been difficult for someone who still had taken prerequisites or something.
Exactly.
Like, it's still
And I mean, my first... the first class that I went into for physics, and the guy was speaking Icelandic, teaching in Icelandic, but I was like, holy, what language is this? Like, I did not understand anything that he was saying, any of those terms. But, you know, I got through it, and I ended up being like doing really well, actually, and then in my master's as well. So I think my advice there is that if there's something that you're interested in, you should go do it. Like, you will do well in what you're interested in, or well enough at least.
And don't let the opinions of others necessarily just completely throw you off if it's something that you're really kind of, if you keep revisiting it or really are interested.
Exactly, because they only know you from a piece of paper and at a glance, right? Like you yourself, you know much better what you are capable of or what you're willing to go through, and the effort you're willing to go through to actually do something.
Yeah, definitely.
I might have a similar story, not quite with a guidance counselor, but I kind of, when I figured out I wanted to go into like computer science or like programming and stuff, I didn't trust myself to commit fully and did this business computer science degree instead, where in the retrospective I should have just committed. So I didn't like fully trust myself in being like, oh, I can do this, but rather went then the route of, you know, doing a half business, half computer science degree, because I didn't quite, you know, I didn't think I had the skills to do it.
But it's a nice way to dip your foot in the pool, though.
Yeah, and then I had, even in my first year, I had like one of the best grades. Like I had top marks in programming and in all of the technical subjects. And I had medium marks in all the business subjects. So I should have just like gone full commit. And
no, but I mean, I think that also builds your confidence as well, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, this is something that I'm both good at and I enjoy.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a nice kind of like way to figure it out.
Yeah, and I definitely learned it throughout my bachelor's degree that I was like, oh yeah, I love all the tech and I actually don't like the business stuff all too much.
And maybe sometimes you just gotta dive in, because that did stop me. For example, in upper secondary, there was like an elective course on programming that I really wanted to take, but I didn't, because I was sure that I would be like the only one that didn't already know how to code, and you know, it was all guys. There was like maybe one girl in that in that group, and I was like, okay, I don't fit in, you know. I will be like the odd one out. I will be like, they will all know what they're doing. I won't know what I'm doing. So I was just too scared to do it, and I didn't enter that.
Yeah, I remember having in university, we had this tutoring class for programming, which was for everyone. But I remember we had like one female tutor, and she was amazing. And I think she encouraged loads of us to be like, so I mean, great.
The visibility for other girls and people who are kind of interested in this is huge. Like the fact that you can see someone else and you're like, that could be me. Like I can see myself in that person, or that this space, this area has space for me. I think that's huge. And I think a lot of us, because like this is our day to day, but I think we forget how much of an impact that kind of has on like the people around us, because they're not going to tell us necessarily, or they don't. It's not something that's like said or celebrated in that kind of way. Yeah. But I think it is just kind of existing in this space. It's really cool.
Yeah. Just that you're visible, because like when I was thinking about computer science or coding when I was younger, like I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anyone in the field, so there was like no one in my family or friends or anyone who was interested in it. So I never, like, I was really late kind of in taking the steps to actually enter, because I didn't feel like oh, I must be weird for thinking about this, because it's not a group that I belong in. And actually, it's like it's so silly. When we were in upper secondary school, we keep saying that word again and again and again. we have these like university days where we can go to the university and go to the booths of all of the different departments and like see what they're doing. And I went there with my friends who are great. But for some reason, I was too shy to tell them that I was even thinking about computer science. So like, you know, I went to the, you know, like languages booth and social studies booth, and then I was like, I'm gonna go off to the toilet, see you in a bit, and then I sneaked into the computer science booth, and I was like, hopefully no one sees me, which is like ridiculous. It's so silly, but I felt so out of place that I felt really awkward to do it.
I think it's also often because what you hear is, oh, it's just a class with a bunch of guys and there's like 2 girls in there and that's about it. But I feel like there's been a shift, at least in Iceland there's like a massive shift where it's I think nearly 50-50 in Reykjavik University.
Actually no, well maybe in Reykjavik University, but I think I heard it the other day from HR at CCP that actually the ratio hadn't changed that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
In university?
Yes.
Okay.
For computer science, But I feel like there's much more acceptance and awareness.
Because I remember, because CCP has started to go to more elementary schools actually, and I think because it's the thing, we were going to most of the university days, and it was kind of this more studies have shown that we need the visibility sooner. So that's the idea of going and being more present in the like elementary schools, just elementary and kind of like the middle schools or whatever. So that because it starts sooner, so like you start to get that visibility and that kind of acceptance of like, oh, this is something interesting, way sooner than because if you wait too long, then it's, I mean, like you took the leap of faith, but at the both of you, but at the same time, like maybe it wasn't, like maybe it could have been something that you would have started to dabble with even earlier.
Yeah, I think also different school systems. So I grew up in Germany where you kind of decide on your path pretty early, which is around like 6th grade, I'd say. So yeah, I kind of had to choose the branch which I wanted to do. And I chose technology, but usually there's also only like 2-3 girls out of 30 students.
Okay. And that's at what, like 12 or?
I'd say it's like 14, 13. It's
but
so early.
How can you know? How can you possibly know what you want to do?
But I was really lucky. In my year, we were like the strongest girl class ever, and we were like 10 out of 30.
Was this the era of Spice Girls? Because I feel like maybe the Spice Girls helped us. Like girl power.
Maybe,
you know,
yeah. It was the 2000s. So,
exactly. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, because I know we're going into the elementary schools as well, and I think it's like, and then the university has courses here in Iceland at least that they have, like it's called tæknistelpur, but it's courses that are just for like younger girls between 6 and 8, where I think what they're trying to combat is that a lot of like when they do Minecraft courses and stuff, it is a lot of boys. But so if you have a course that's specifically kind of geared towards girls, then it kind of fosters that like you're not the one girl in and among a whole group.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. But I'm curious if you guys can walk me through CCP Esja. What does your like day-to-day look like? What does it look like? Kind of what do you do once you come into the office?
Yeah. So as I said, I'm a senior data scientist, so I don't work directly on any of our products. But I'm like a central function. So I provide our leadership with data and everything that they need to make informed decisions.
Okay.
I primarily work in the London studio for EVEathon, which is obviously still in development. But because I'm like quite senior in the team, I also help with the rest of the analytics team. So my day-to-day is kind of split with like working on Vanguard and setting everything up so we can gather meaningful data from the playtests we're doing, but also kind of helping a little bit with our other products here in Reykjavik.
So you take like kind of you aggregate and take that data and then kind of feed it back to the dev teams to help them make decisions as to what direction to go into, or? Yeah,
so I work super close with our game director, for example, and also with game design, and I actually work with kind of everyone with level design and everyone and make dashboards or like some analysis, look into the data we have, looking into player behavior, and also a little bit of the surveys because we have, survey data, but what people are reporting they're doing and what they're actually doing can often differ quite a lot.
Definitely.
So we're looking there, and that's mostly to like see how features are being used. Are they used? Are we seeing something weird? Are we seeing, so for example, we're looking at the new player journey, for example, looking into there if there's anything wrong with it, as in people dropping out. So all of these, like, basically collecting and seeing if we're doing on the right things.
Or if like the hypotheses that are being made when designing, if they're coming true or if they're kind of verging in a different way.
Exactly, like we would introduce a new feature and looking if that keeps players engaged. Or not. Then we know that wasn't the thing.
Let's take a different direction.
Yeah,
that makes
exactly.
Sense. Cool. What about you, CCP Keys? Your day-to-day? You deal with me a lot?
I'm lucky enough to get to deal with you. I think it depends on which phase we're in, because we have these kind of, for developers, 2 big phases, which are either the design and planning phase of what we're working on, and then the execution of that plan, like the implementation of that plan. So in the first phase, we would be, I think, collaborating a lot more with different disciplines. So like you were saying, with game design, with UX design, we're trying to realize what we're actually building, how we're going to build it, make a sensible plan for it. Now we are in the execution phase of that for what we're working on. So then that's more focused on just the implementation of it. So that will be writing the code for that, reviewing code from peers, making sure we're working in a sensible way together. Like so in the project we're now doing, I'm the lead engineer for the backend technology of that feature that we're building. So I'm also making sure that, like, us backend engineers working on it, we're working towards the same kind of upcoming goals, that what we're working on makes sense in terms of working in parallel and all of that. Seeing what we should be doing next, what makes sense to like deliver as testable deliverables, things like that. So a lot of collaboration, which I really enjoy. is a part of that.
Cool.
We do meetings as well, stand-ups and things. One of the meetings that I love that we have in my discipline team, which is the centralized backend team, we have like weekly meetings where we share knowledge with each other, maybe like new good ways of doing something. We want to continue like developing our standards of quality, our processes, good patterns of how to design something or implement something. So we do a lot of that knowledge sharing as well, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, we do something similar. So I am also embedded in like the backend team in Vanguard. So we actually do something similar. We have like a Monday thing where it's very casual and everyone just shares what they're working on, but we're also sharing code. So just like, show me what you're doing. Do you have something fun to show? And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
To like see what everyone is up to and like learn and
And that's within like the data discipline or no?
That's just the
within
backend team. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we had our sprint review today, which is always fun because I'm producing the gameplay team. So we have backend engineers, we have monolith engineers, we have game design, UI UX design, QA, and producer. But then, after our 2-week sprint, then we did our sprint review, and it's really, I quite enjoy this team because it has so much collaboration that is required. It's game design who have like the different systems that we're creating and how the players are going to experience it. We have the back end and the monolith kind of side chatting together. It's the UI UX design and engineers as well. And sprint review is kind of one of my favorite meetings because it's everyone sharing like what they did that sprint. And some of it is sharing. You were sharing very interesting code today. It was a good time. It was a good time. But then we also have kind of like prototypes for the UI UX or the new dashboards that are actually from that. Then we see it actually in the client. And that is a lot of, like you were saying, like a lot of collaboration and it's talking together and kind of your knowledge sharing, but also because as you were saying, when we do pre-production, we're planning everything. And best case scenario, everything just goes to plan. But that doesn't always happen. And so I'm guessing that hasn't always happened to either of you. So like, how do you guys manage these types of kind of conflicts or challenges whenever we've planned for something and then it's like, oh, this isn't going to quite work this way? What's like, is it millions of meetings? Or, I mean, sometimes it is maybe a little bit, but.
I mean, I think the key thing there is to talk often to make sure you are aligned because it's so easy to kind of, okay, I'm going to do my thing, you're going to do your thing, and then in the end we'll patch it together, right? But then it's so easy to for one person to have an assumption on something that wasn't like discussed in detail and said out loud, and then the other person has a different assumption, and then suddenly you're working on different things. So merging often, aligning often, and for example having these bi-weekly meetings, that does really help because that will it will surface a misunderstanding really quickly, right? Yeah. So I think just trying to keep that conversation always going and showing what you're doing like really helps to prevent that as well. Yeah. Because you don't want to discover that too late, right?
Right.
And have to
then
like,
you're really changing course or trying to like patch things in.
Yeah, I think, well, data is also centralized and it's maybe a little bit different, but I also work with like a lot of teams in the studio, which is something I love, like touching like basically nearly every team apart from art in a way and audio. And it's really fun and engaging, but sometimes when like features come late, because in order to track data needs to be sent to us, which is often the last bit in a development. So if like gameplay develops something, the last bit is obviously the data bit because you can't send data for something that doesn't exist.
Right. You have to have the feature to exist before we can actually send you anything.
Often a challenge is that we come in super late, but then a requirement from leadership is like, oh, I want a day one report on this thing.
Right.
So there is often like quite a very work-heavy period before release, where it's like everyone, the gameplay team and everyone is kind of done, and we're like, no. But I think, like talking a lot, and because we're centralized, we can always like source help from other games, and but communication is definitely key also to the gameplay teams and
Do you find that because you work with so many different types of teams that you have to kind of adjust your tactics of communication based on who you're kind of talking to? Like, I mean, because you as well, like both backend teams are quite kind of very technical, but I imagine working with a gameplay team or a gameplay, like, or maybe designers or something might have that maybe there's a different way of like kind of approaching problems.
I think so. Yeah, at least for me, it very, and that's also a very data science thing that you have to have different communication styles because we talk to leadership, which obviously is more non-technical.
Right.
And then at the same time, you also talk to gameplay where you essentially talk code. So it's like these two levels of communication. And yeah, even within the team, it's different. Like if I talk to a game designer, that would be a different conversation to a gameplay engineer, for example. So it is slightly different, I'd say.
Yeah. I personally don't think so much about kind of my language and how I talk to different people. I guess I'm just not really that amazing at communications, but
I don't think that's the case. But
I think the main
maybe you're just good at it across the board, and I'm just thinking I'm overthinking it.
No, I think the main difference is whether you're talking about the what or the how.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
those are good questions.
And I think a mistake we sometimes, or a trap we sometimes fall into, is to talk about the how too early, before we all kind of agree on what it is we're doing and why that's the case. Yeah. And then you figure out like how to actually accomplish that, right? Yeah. And first that's on like a design level, and then it's on a technical level, right? So yeah, there are definitely kind of stages in the things you are talking about.
Yeah. I think that's really, really interesting, because I think when we started, especially in pre-production, a lot of the conversation centered around what do we want the player to experience? And I think especially if someone who like imagines that I'm working in a back-end team, or I'm just doing really like heavy coding or whatever, there can be this perception that that's not a question that you would ask, or that's like that doesn't matter to you, but that absolutely matters, because figuring out what you want the player to experience and how you want them to interact with this is kind of the core to how are we going to do it. Like the what will then inform that how.
Yeah, because you want to make sure that you build the correct thing that you want to achieve, right? Because different, like if we can call it requirements from design, how we want the feature can end up in such different technical designs. You know, what we are going to optimize, for example, for. Like, does this need to be super performant, or does this, need to be something else? Because you need to optimize for different things when you're designing solutions. So I think that this really is a key to coming up with a good technical design, is to understand what you're trying to achieve for the feature and the functionality, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it also helps keeping people aligned, I guess. Like if you have this common goal of like you said, oh, this needs to be more performant, or I don't know, we want X amount of people using it, whatever. Yeah. Then everyone knows the goal, which makes it easier for people to like align.
You can always kind of go back to that original, like the reasoning or something, because then it kind of is like, wait, if you hit a question or a hurdle or whatever, and then you can kind of go back to either the framing or the initial reasoning for it and go, okay, wait, how does this question or hurdle then align with what our original purpose is?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And exactly like those different trade-offs you mentioned, also just to make sure you're not kind of using your time and effort on the wrong things, because I can maybe spend a lot of time building a super scalable and efficient solution, whereas maybe for some features that's not as important, and we should rather focus on the extensibility of it, because it's something we want to expand for the future and not have super specific for only this use case, So that's, we have so many of those different factors to take into the designs, like, is it worth it to create a super complex system because it needs to be absolutely accurate and correct? Or is that not maybe necessary now, and we can like lean into more on the scalability side of this, because that's what we need to rather support here. Yeah. Those are things that what we want the players to experience and how we want them to experience it, that really factors into those as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know something that whenever I've taken interviews with people or people who are interested in working with CCP, I find that sometimes one of the best things that I focus on, or like that I ask a lot about, is, and we've talked about this a bunch here, is communication. It's like, and it's not only just communication, but also like a thought process. How do you get to the answer to something? Not necessarily that you get to the right answer, but like that the steps that you took to get to somewhere, which I think is really, really interesting. I think sometimes when people are thinking about going into different fields or industries, they think I've got to know C++ or Python, or like really like I'd have to know everything about it. And the one thing that I find, especially in interviews, is that a lot of the things that and even in this game, because it's a very old game, there are things that you will learn on the job and we will teach you. You don't need to know all that, but I find that the things that people call soft skills, and I hate that word soft skills, so human skills, being a good human being, are sometimes even more important. The idea of like asking the right questions, not being afraid to ask the questions, and also like just having that thirst and curiosity to learn more things. Because I think that there's a lot of things that people can learn on the job that you're not expected to know ahead of time. But it's like having this kind of like pulling the thread and figuring things out. And I wonder if that's something that you guys have experienced in your jobs, or what you find kind of like working with different people.
Yeah, I think especially for data, and I've talked to students and stuff before that ask me like, what do I need to know? And I'm like, the most important thing is that you're curious about data. Like at least for data, it's more like digging into it, finding outliers, being curious and wanting to know why something looks the way it is. Which is much more important than I think, technical skills. And you learn the technical skills.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something you learn on the job, and it is probably, it's hard, but it's learnable. But curiosity is probably not as learnable as, SQL or whatever programming language.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I studied software engineering at university rather than computer science, and the main difference there is that in software engineering you go more into kind of the engineering foundations, and you do maths and less of, like if you go into computer science, maybe you do more practical learning, which kind of gives you kind of a head start into like already knowing the things you're going to work on. But I personally think it's so valuable to have a good foundation where you know what you were talking about before, which is essentially problem solving, right? How to address problems, how to come up with a solution, and how to know what you need to do, and not jump just on some assumptions that something should work in a certain way. You have to ask those questions, and you have to be critical. I think that's like one big trait, to be critical of what you're doing and what everyone's doing, and question assumptions that people might have.
Yeah.
And in my example, like coming to CCP, I didn't know. I knew like one thing in the tech stack. And
it also evolves, right? The tech stack changes.
Yeah, the tech stack
well,
changes
so
as well.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I've changed teams since I joined CCP and the other team had a completely different tech stack than the one that I joined. So like I couldn't have prepared really for that either.
Well, and the one that you joined has built up significantly since you first started. So
and not to discredit being good in your tech stack, because of course that makes you much more efficient at your job, and when you know what you're working with, of course that's better.
Yeah.
But for me, I would say that the foundation is more important, because that's more difficult to learn, right?
Yeah, I would even add like asking questions as a skill, like
asking the right questions.
And asking the right questions is so important. Because you need to, like, for me, where I also talk to leadership and stuff, it's not like, not making assumptions of what they think they want is important. It's more like asking the questions. What do they want? What's the thing we want to analyze? What's the thing we want to improve upon? And all of that. So asking questions is so important. The right questions. And that's also how you learn, right? If you have a new tech stack and you need to adapt, just ask questions.
Yeah. I think that's often, especially people that can be quite daunting in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And I know even kind of with us, like sometimes you're in text channels that have a lot of people in them, and it's very daunting to ask such a question, because then it's like, oh, they're gonna fit, like, and I think you both touched on that in the beginning, this kind of feeling of imposter syndrome. If I ask this question, people are gonna know that I don't know this.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean about me? And are they gonna think less of me? And that's really hard. I think whether you're just in university or whether you're like 37 years old, like, working at a place for over 5 years, like that can be quite daunting no matter at what stage. But I think it's kind of getting comfortable with sometimes being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It can be really good.
Yeah, especially like I always like when people say, I don't know this, can you explain this to me?
Yeah.
Like that. And I think sometimes when you're especially junior and you start just starting out, I think you're a bit afraid of like saying, oh, I don't know this. What would people think? And I'm like, I love when people say, I don't know, can you explain this?
Yeah, it's much better to air it out and make sure you're on the same page rather than being on totally different pages.
And usually at some point, if someone has that question, someone else does as well, but they just haven't said it out loud.
Definitely.
So, and I love a good meeting where someone's like, wait, can we just take a step back? And I'm like, yes, good, let's do this.
Yeah.
There's usually someone in the room that's like, God.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll play that as well, like especially because I'm the producer, so I'm maybe not as technical, and so it's easier for me to be the intermediary. Even if I know that someone in the room isn't quite sure, so then I can say, wait, can we just kind of circle back on this? Like what? Circle back? Wow. Sorry. Just working on my synergy, my making sure that we're kind of meeting the mark and moving the needle, as they say. No, sorry, I have a corporate tagline pen, which was for fun, and now it's haunting me. Buzzword pen. What I was gonna say, yes, that can we kind of refocus on this thing here and figure out? And I remember I've had conversations where I said to my team, like, does everyone understand this word, the way that we're using it? And everyone's like, yes. And then someone else will ask me, and I'll be like, yes, we're all aligned. And then one person asks a question, and they're like, no, that's not how it works. And I was like, no, that means that we're not aligned. We don't know what this word means.
We all think we know it, but it might not be the same as someone else.
As bigger the group, I feel like people just get like scared, and then you're like, sure.
Yeah. I got it.
And also like, oh, yeah, they know what they're talking about, and that's enough. But maybe then they're thinking the same thing.
I don't need to know. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that comic where it's like everyone? It's like, do we all understand? And it's the thought bubbles where everyone's thinking of a different shape.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we're all aligned, and it's like, oh, but if we actually were to say out loud what we thought it was, then we're not.
And as you were saying, it can be tiring, and like, especially in the beginning of a new project, you're. Oh God, you're talking so much. You're talking and talking, and it is tiring.
Yeah.
But I think it is necessary.
It's like the mental gymnastics of both figuring out all of the nooks and crannies of a new project and a new feature, especially something that maybe someone has, like it's lived in someone's head and they've put it down on paper, and then once it's all down on paper or on a whiteboard in front of everyone goes, wait, what? I don't get that. And it's like, I mean, I relate to that a lot. I'm a very auditory processor person, so like half the time I need to say something out loud in order to figure out either how I feel about it or how that kind of works in my brain. And so like I really relate to this idea of like get it out and create something concrete. And then have other people look at it and go like, okay, that's a little bit odd. And be like, okay, tell me why it's odd. Why do we think that this is weird?
I pictured that differently.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, tell me what you were thinking, because maybe that could be a really nice way to kind of get to an even better solution than the one that the person originally was thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
And it is so good to get inputs from different people as well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's become a bit of a like tagline. Yeah, diverse teams are great, but like, oh, sorry. But really they are. Like having different opinions from different people who come from different directions and have different expertise. Yeah. I think that is just invaluable to have that.
Yeah. Because that sometimes brings also an angle that you would have never thought about as well. Yeah.
Definitely. I was thinking about kind of related to that, like the I have a hard time. My brain. I have a lot of things in my brain. My ADHD is it goes strong, and I have a lot of like balls bouncing around in my head. And sometimes the thing that I'm still kind of working on today is figuring out which one of those balls that I want to kind of grab, because I can't. I was in a meeting with someone the other day, and I kind of spat out a lot of things to them, and they were like, okay, wait, can we go back to the first thing like 10 minutes ago? and I'm working on like slowly, like, here's one ball, let's talk about that one, and then I'm gonna take a breath. And I'm curious if you guys have things that like even like working in tech for a while, like are there things that you're still kind of working on and kind of things that you're trying to figure out even today? Either one? No?
I think it's always learning, right? Like I feel like I'm always learning and learning new things, and I mean my role has evolved over time as well. So
and juggling maybe more like the actual responsibility that comes with that. Or
exactly. And it's, for example, we've changed a little bit in the team. So now I'm working a bit more closely with our lead data engineer and trying to set up the team for like from a tech stack perspective. So that's also a new challenge to like think not just about myself, but also thinking about my team and what we want to use and what's good for everyone on the team, because everyone also has different knowledge levels, different things they're comfortable with, and everyone has also slightly different workflows and everything. So I think that's kind of my new challenge, where I'm like not just thinking about myself, I'm thinking about the team.
like right, and how does it all work together?
And how and then we also obviously support not just EVE Online, we support other games as well. And how that all works together is definitely one thing I'm learning right now.
That makes sense.
One thing that I've been working on is my mentality about kind of the standard of stuff, because I feel like I always keep myself to a really, really high standard for everything. And I feel like I need to be great at all the different skills that you need to have for this job. And I need to be as good as the person who's best at this, but I also need to be as good as the other person who's best at that.
Relate to this.
But like no one person can be that. And I'm trying to like, I'm always trying to figure out what is good enough, what is a good balance of being like really
done is better than perfect, or like don't be like, what is it, perfect, the enemy of the good, or something like that. And what is perfect anyways, no one can There's
be
a great Bluey episode on that, by the way. Sorry,
like no one person can be perfect, because there are different opinions on what perfect is, and also and that also applies to software, to some code that you write or a design, because people will have different opinions about it based on what their experience is and just what their opinions are. So like finding that balance is something that I always find hard, and kind of what are sensible requirements.
I can relate as well. It's like trying to be the best at everything. An impossible goal to achieve.
Definitely. And it's easy to say that like for everyone else, like that's not like realistic, but for me, of course, it's I still need to do that.
But I need to do that.
No, absolutely. And I think it's also the idea that like there's an assumption where this idea of like, oh well, I think that I'm maybe the only one who has to deal with this, or like because I think that we internalize a lot of these things and we don't say them out loud, and I think this goes for a lot of almost everyone, but I think a lot of people are kind of dealing with the same things, but we don't necessarily like speak out loud about them, and then it's like, oh no, they've got it all figured out, they've got it like covered, and how do I be like them? And then oppositely, they're like, oh my god, like this is so difficult, like I'm like drowning.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not easy being vulnerable and kind of out there with stuff that you're thinking. So it's easier not to, right?
And I think that like connecting that to software engineering and to the designs, it's really hard to have an idea or a design of something that you think could be better. And because like there's almost a vulnerability with creating something that's maybe not perfect and then allowing it to live. And I know that's where like this whole idea of failing fast, and it's better to kind of get something out and figure out why it doesn't work and then do something like iterate on it and do the next step or whatever. And that can be really, really difficult because it's almost like you're letting a piece of you, whether it's a design thing or like a technical design or a game design or a UI UX design, where you're like, this could be better, and I don't want to finish it until it's better. And it's like, no, done is better than perfect sometimes. And like, and that coming from your friendly neighborhood producer, done is better than perfect. And I will sing that till the cows come home. And that's one of my favorite things of being a producer for people, where one of the people on our team, she always says, she's like, I love having a producer because I don't have to say no to anything. I just send them to you and then you say no. And I was like, yes, exactly. That's exactly my job. And that's what I love. But I think that that's interesting, the idea, because I think that it's hard to be vulnerable within ourselves, but then it's also like the work that we do ends up being kind of the concrete version of that. And so it's kind of figuring out that balance.
Yeah, and other people see your work, you feel like people are maybe going to judge your work, and
definitely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, any last words before we kind of we like to whether it's to people who are interested in getting into coding, or people who are just kind of like code curious. Any like last kind of final advice that you would give, or like any parting words?
I think from both of our history probably is just like trying it, just doing it, like not overthinking it. Maybe don't ask for guidance counseling. Just go in. And just be curious and try things out. I think nowadays it's even maybe easier to get started than maybe like 15, 20 years. Oh God, 15, 20 years ago.
No, I don't want to think about how long it was.
We've already referenced the Spice Girls. The jig is up. They're all aware. We're not hiding anything.
So I'd say just get started and see if it sparks joy. Like,
I'm how Marie Kondo of you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But if it doesn't interest you and it doesn't spark any joy, then that might not be the right career path. But at least for me, I was like, oh, this is nice. This is just a logic puzzle. I love this.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
the same thing. Just try it. Like, don't be afraid to, because you don't fit some certain idea you have of how someone or something should be. Like that. Just do it and try it.
I don't think that I ever expected to work at a video games company. I think that was the biggest kind of, or working in tech in general. Like I was like you, I was Latin and languages, and I wanted to work like in government or something. But like this has been one of the most like rewarding experiences of my career, and I love, and I get to be so creative, and I get to be so like, we did a Spirit Week, which was amazing and fun, but also questionable for my self-esteem, because I wore pajamas to work, and someone on your team said, I just thought that's what you wore. I didn't realize there was a spirit. I didn't realize it was a theme. And I was like, this says a lot about me as a thing. But we got like, we were doing client patches, and we got people to wear our Viking hat that was brought by the CSM. So there's a lot of creativity there that I think it's not just cut and dry. And I think, like you were saying, we need all kinds of people. So I think it's really, really important to not just kind of box ourselves into one thing. But otherwise, we hope that you all stick around for our usual Friday Live to Feed. We'd love to have you. I'll turn it over to those cats, and thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.